So that election was exemplary,
yes,
as far as you are concerned. Now, okay, let me come back to you somewhere. I want to say, let's look at internal democracy, the way candidates are chosen to represent the parties. We have seen over time that in some parties it doesn't exist at all. There are no primaries. They just have selections in some parties. Now, if that be the case across the board, what would you say we should be doing to entrench internal democracy in these parties?
Well, let's thank God, first of all, that it's not across the board. The parties where primaries are not held, the Electoral Act does provide...
Sorry to break you. We've got somebody on the line. Let's very quickly see who's calling. Ahmed is calling from Kaduna. It seems we're not getting through to Ahmed. Okay. Yes, you may continue.
The Electoral Act provides for the selection of candidates via primaries or by consensus. In some political parties, there is neither consensus nor primaries, and the candidates just magically emerge. Now, as a result of that, some of these political parties have lost capital. They've lost political capital in areas where they had hitherto been perceived to be quite strong. I think I can refer to the Lagos State local government elections in 2011 as a case in point. There was a lot of agitation in the ruling party because apparently somebody somewhere had sat and simply handpicked candidates for the various positions all over the state. And the result was that members of his own party worked assiduously against those candidates that had been imposed upon them, against their will. They worked against them, and the result was that the opposition party won across the state.
They were helped along.
Yes. Now, what we then saw thereafter, in my opinion, was a disgrace, an absolute sham. I have never seen that type of situation before, where an election umpire will address the media, will face the world and say, these are the outcomes of these elections, and then fail to tell us the actual results by number. So many people voted for this candidate, so many people voted for that candidate, therefore this candidate won the election. No, they just came and said, Badagry, this party, Ikoyi, this party.
May I ask that you hold the thought?
Hello.
We've got Okafo calling from Anambra. Yes, Okafo. Good morning.
Good morning. Happy for allowing me to talk on this sunrise.
Okay, please
Hello.
go ahead, make your point.
Okay, the issue I want to contribute is this issue of Nigerian lawyers not trying to not trying to help the country. The registration of a political party is very good. If the Constitution says the INEC has power to register, any right-thinking person, we also know from the spirit of this Constitution that if you have power to register, you also have power to deregister. If you have power to bring somebody up in your register, if you have the same power to say, look, you are no longer fit to be in this register, unless you have to do so and so things and become relevant again. The issue of having 1,000 political parties in Nigeria doesn't help this country at all. So let's discuss the facts. If you see the SCN, the last 2011 election, we are hoping that they will do something in this internal democracy by the way they bring out their candidates. But eventually it was this issue of consensus. You will become, other than giving some money, I ask you to step down for this person or that person. Why is Nigerian political parties shy of primaries? If primaries are fair, I tell you, we will have good losers in the country. All this issue of going to court and tribunal and all those things will stop. Because if somebody comes to the primary and tests his ability and political will and fails, the person will join hands in supporting the other person. But what people do in Nigeria is that when you lose and when you are forced out of the party, You now look out for another alternative political party and go there and service them, and they'll give you their ticket. You go there and serve. So the issue of internal democracy still lies with the political parties. They cannot do any miracle if the political parties cannot internalize internal democracy. That is the issue.
Okay,
So let
thank
political
you.
parties
Thank you,
react
Okafor. Thank you
to
very much.
true
So we
transparent
come back to the
primary.
point you were trying to make. As far as internal democracy is concerned, so your summation is that?
I think we're making progress.
Okay.
I think that I believe, and I'm not trying to be partisan here, I believe that the PDP have have set out a great example of what internal democracy in political parties should look like. Mr. Animashao can take the credit for this, but we've witnessed live televised presidential primaries of the PDP, where delegates come from all over the states, from all over the country. They come from every state. They vote. We've witnessed national congresses of the PDP. I think we've witnessed about 3 or 4 now. And each time they've at least made some attempt at transparency. We've witnessed primaries of gubernatorial primaries of PDP. I've witnessed a couple in Lagos State. There has been some attempt at transparency. There has been some attempt at democracy. Okay, whereas some other political parties appear not to be able to get into that democratic groove. And perhaps they need a little more encouragement from the people, which I think was supplied in late 2011 and again in Ondo State, because the manner of emergence of the candidates of the ACN in Ondo State, we saw what happened thereafter. Brickbats flying all over the place, handbags at 20 paces. All the aspirants left the party and went to join other political persuasions and worked hard against the ACN. Now, hopefully, that experience, coupled with the massive loss in the Lagos State local government, never mind the announcement by the LASIEC chairman, the judgments at various election tribunals that we've been hearing over the last few months have, perhaps buttressed the PDP's claims that they actually won totally the elections in Lagos State. I mean, they've lost Ikoyi Obalende, which is where the ACN leader lives. They've lost Agbado Okyodo, as far as I understand, quite recently. They've had to go and do a rerun in Yaba, where, in fact, the ACN have been disqualified from presenting a candidate in Yaba, and a rerun has been ordered there. Badagry Central, I actually saw the announcement. Now, this is really odd. I actually saw on YouTube, I think I can say this now because the tribunal thing is over. Am I correct, sir? Okay. I actually saw on YouTube the announcement by the returning officer in Badagry local government immediately after the election, where, various people were present, INEC, police, all these people, and the electoral people were there, and they announced that PDP had won, only for us to hear later in the afternoon the LASIEC chairman saying in Badagry, ACN won. And not only that, he actually failed to give the figures. I felt that was a big blow on our democratic experiment. It's really tenuous, this hold that we have on this new democracy it's still new. I mean, the Americans have been at it for 200 years.
Indeed, it is very new, but we'll continue the conversation. We'll just very quickly take Dio's call. Dio is calling from Ibadan. Good morning, Dio.
Hello.
Oh, Dakwa.
Yeah,
Yes.
good morning. I just want to make a contribution to this program. I want to correct an impression as regards the journalist handling the program. I want you to understand one thing. I want a situation that when you are handling the program, you have to be very clear, especially as regards the election in Ondo State. At the moment, the election with the tribunal, the comments and the way and manner you support a particular candidate or the way you prepare, you proclaim the election to be free and fair. It is not fair enough. All of us are on ground. We know exactly what was going on or what went wrong as regards the election. There are so many places during the election where election never took place and results came out, especially in the local government. As fact, the evening before before the election, a particular radio station in the state was broadcasting that there will be no election in the local government, where a particular candidate came from. How come now you will not be adjourning such an election to be free? You should know that something is wrong somewhere. Before the election, there was an announcement in a particular radio that there was problem in election in the Nigerian, there will be no election. And in the particular ward, the whole of the ward, there was no election. Ito, another places in Akoko. For you to be adjourning the election to be free and fair, it's a sort of injustice. And I want the issue to be resolved at the tribunal level. That is the situation.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dakwa.
But I'd just like to say that the judgments being put forward are by and large. If you have 5% irregularities and you have 95%, that is still it can be said to be good, and it still can be described as free and fair.
Actually, in an election, there's something called substantial compliance, because it is realized that you cannot have an election
100%.
that will be 100% perfect.
Okay, internal democracy, just as we wrap up now, if we can ask you, you represent the CNPP, what does your party do internally to ensure that there is a level of transparency in your democracy?
Let me start by saying that I'm not opposed to internal democracy of any political party. Neither the godfathers in PDP, which you do not want to accept, or the free primaries you talked about. The point of the matter in liberal democracy is that political parties are associations of people who like themselves, believe in a given ethos on how the society should evolve, or ideology, or whatever you call it. And anytime you feel you are no more part of that kind of position, it's tendency for you to leave another association. The number one democracy on earth is India.
I'm sorry, we have very little time.
The Congress
left,
Party,
just a couple of minutes left.
It's owned by a family and the friends of the families. But because there's free and fair election in India, somebody like Sandra Gandhi couldn't have been Prime Minister of India. They had to look inwards to present to the Indian electorate the best person they think should be the Prime Minister. If and whenever or wherever there is free and fair election, the parties will be forced to do self-censorship. And that is what we should clamor for. If there is free and fair election in the local government election you talked about in Lagos State, the party that imposed candidate could have been taught a hard lesson. We just finished a local government election in Kaduna.
I am so
exactly
sorry.
what happened.
We don't have a lot of time left.
I'm saying that
within
internal
party,
democracy is not compulsory.
It is not compulsory.
It's not.
So
it's an association of bodies that believe in how the society should be run.
Okay.
It is the electorate that will now say, if party A presents a candidate of their choice, they go for. That's why in Britain you're talking about.
Then why do parties have
Wait. Ghana is just about rounding an election yesterday. In the past 15 years, it had always been 51% victory to 49. So the electorate in Ghana is aware, they don't care about the parties. What they look for is the candidate you chop up. So it makes the party to in-house. Mr.
Kechiko,
you can't go for us. So it's not compulsory.
No, I understand what you're saying.
It's not compulsory. It's not as important as free and fair election.
Absolutely.
We should work towards making Nigerian elections to be free and fair. Internal democracy is good.
Yes.
But a lot of premium is being paid on it, which is unwarranted.
Okay. So, sorry, let me just very quickly wrap this up. We have to wrap this up, but I need you to confirm that, yes, you acknowledge the fact that internal democracy is good, but it is not compulsory. In CNPP, do you practice it? Yes, it is good.
CNPP is not a political party, my brother.
Okay, what is it?
CNPP is an amalgam of all the political
CNPP
parties.
is
They
an
are even
acronym for ACN.
PDP is a member in some states where PDP is not in power. They are members of the CNPP.
No. CNPP is an acronym for ACN.
I don't know what you have against the ACN, but the point of the matter is that the ACN
Yes.
must be given the credit. Otherwise, the one-party state that PDP still nurtures
No, the PDP
as an
doesn't
ambition
nurture any
is
one-party
the
state.
ACN
In fact,
that stopped them.
When you're looking for internal
It's the
democracy,
ACN.
when you're looking for
No,
when you're
the
talking about
one-party
internal
state
democracy,
and
that
dictatorship.
appears, you see,
Gentlemen.
that appears to be one of the
Gentlemen,
what you
The
have
ACN must
said.
be commended. ACN must be commended.
What appears to be
Otherwise, you could
Sorry,
have been in a one-party state. You
What
could have been in a
appears to be-
one-party state.
Sorry,
ACN
what
must be
appears to be a
recommended.
weakness is actually a strength of PDP, because for today in Nigeria, PDP is the only party that has something that resembles internal democracy. And unless
that
we
an
get,
achievement?
just wait, and unless we get internal democracy right in this country, in this democratic dispensation, they'll keep foisting the wrong candidates on us. So instead of talking to the people, some people would rather go to Bodilon and talk to one man there, knowing that once he puts them down, they become the candidates. Yes.
What I'm saying,
If they foist the wrong candidate
the
on
electorate,
us,
the electorate.
it behoves on us as the
reject.
people
Precisely, I
electing
agree. Just like
to
it happened
decide,
in Ondo.
we don't want this
And
man.
it's going
this
to
is the man
happen
we
again.
want.
In 2007,
Yes.
in 2007 presidential election,
Okay.
was without being immodest, the late Yar'Adua of the blessed memory. If there was free and fair election, was he brought up to the Nigerian people by the PDP through an internal democracy?
Yes, there
it
was
was.
Congress.
Yes,
Congress
Open
of
to
what?
everybody
Congress of what?
at the Eagle Square. Where did
Congress
you
of
have
what?
where did your
Go and
party have
tell
your own
Elijah
Congress?
Atiku that Jonathan
Where?
Singleton was free and fair.
Where? Your own
Go and
party,
tell
where did they
Elijah
have their
Atiku
Congress?
Abubakar. You are not correct.
Can
Yes.
I just
Is
weigh
the
in
achievement
here?
of the internal democracy achievement of
can I just
PDP?
weigh in here?
Gentlemen,